everyone, and welcome back to Binge Battle. What an exciting episode we have for you all here at Rotten Tomatoes, because we're talking about the best TV of 2022. And to do that, we have two expert panelists who are not only great debaters of all things entertainment, they also happen to be in the big screen. Well, I mean, they're up on the big screen. They're in a movie that's touring festivals and cleaning up a lot of awards called Always Lola. So we'll talk about that at the end of the show. In the meantime, there's a lot of television that came out this past year, and we're here to celebrate the highs, the lows, the surprises, the twists, the turns, all that good stuff with some of our favorite shows from streaming services and network and cable as well. So my name is Mark Ellis. We're about to get set. Before I introduce your guest here today, I will remind you that, as always here on Binge Battle, there's going to be some spoilers. So the alert is in session, particularly for one of the later rounds where we will be talking about our favorite moments from TV shows of 2022. So if you haven't seen a particular show, you can still enjoy this episode. But if we bring up a show you haven't seen yet, maybe just hit that mute button for a little bit until we get to the next topic. We are set for at least 4 rounds, possibly a tie-breaking 5th round. And given the two competitors we have here today, I imagine it's going to come right down to the wire. Introducing first, she is a returning favorite here to the show. You know her as one of the creators of the Whirl Girls Empire. They have a calendar you can order right now. She also does her daily show live at the Roxy and one of the stars of Always Lola. It's Roxy Striar. Welcome back home.
You make me sound so much cooler than I am, Mark, and I really appreciate that. Thanks. This is my favorite thing to do. You know, I'm obsessed with TV. This is like Sophie's Choice times 10 for me today, but I'm excited to talk about it.
I know, and I don't want to get, too personal, but I'm just curious because, like, you hear all the things you're doing in the world and entertaining the masses. How do you find the time to watch as much TV? Because I know that you're basically like me. You're just a couch potato. You may be a better, looking couch potato than the guy talking right now, but you still love sitting down and watching TV. How do you find the time?
Listen, you're still a sweet potato. I'm a yellow potato. There's just different kind of potatoes for people. I have watched 115 series this year so far. And I think I attribute that to being lonely and single. So, it's just things to really aspire to be.
Your opponent today also has a lovely pup named Snickers. You also know him from his wonderful performance in Always Lola. Again, it's making the festival runs. We'll talk about that at the end of the show. He also is a wonderful actor in other projects as well. You've seen him host, you've seen him comment, you've seen him pundit on things like his Action Army platform. It's Andrew Ghai.
What is up? I'm going to leave. Roxy's watched 150. How many series? Like, I already knew you were the queen of television. I was already incredibly intimidated. But yeah, wow. I've watched I've probably watched like 50 series this year, though. I've watched a ton of TV, but that's still like a third of what Rox has watched.
Yeah, 50 setting the bar pretty high, and then Roxy just comes in, and I know Roxy watches a lot of live sports too, and so we got some good viewers of TV here. And again, this is everything from streaming shows you may have watched on a device like your phone, all the way up to whoever's got those huge TVs that are 100 inches, maybe even a projection TV that you watch your favorite streaming service or network or cable show on. We're talking about all of it. Andrew, you and Snickers, when you guys are home and you're watching TV, what is the setup there? Is it a giant TV? Are you more of like, I watch stuff on my phone when I'm traveling kind of guy?
I am obsessed with Black Friday. Like, it's like the one time a year I like plan all year long for that one day, and then like the Monday and the Friday, and I just spend a lot of money. So I think it was last year I bought like a nice big TV for our apartment. It's like the first time I've bought my own big TV. Like, I always wanted one as a kid, and now that I'm old, I did it. And so I sit there with my heated blanket because it's freezing. It's in the 50s now in LA. I've got a sweater on, and Snickers sits right next to me, and he watches sometimes, but if it gets stressful, he leaves the room. He doesn't like stressful shows.
Yeah, it's just about that time in our lovely city of Southern California that I start ordering the thermal stocks for a long winter that could get down to, dare I say, 49 degrees. So here we go with Binge Battle. As a friendly reminder to everybody, for all the latest in the world of TV, movies, and everything in between, you can head over to RottenTomatoes.com. A lot of good articles, listicles, breaking news, all that good stuff right there at RottenTomatoes.com. And with that, we are going to get kicked off with the shows that we loved of 2022. Topic number 1 in round number 1 is the best drama. What was the best drama of 2022? Andrew Ghai, you have the honor. At your ready, sir. 1 minute on the clock.
So I'm going to go with the best drama being The Bear that came out on Hulu. I mean, it's one of those shows, especially because I was a person that worked in restaurants for almost a decade, that I felt so viscerally invested in every single episode. It gave me such anxiety. I think the second to last episode is one of the greatest pieces of television I've ever seen. It's a 19-minute one shot, which I think is such an accomplishment in and of itself, but also what it does for the drama of like heightening the stakes from that show. The performances all throughout are great. And what I think I love so much is that it's not really about a whole lot, right? It's about grief. It's about someone trying to deal with the grief of losing a family member, but also kind of finding their way in life. It's just like such a beautiful slice of life that I feel like is so incredibly relatable. And I think that that's something that's really important when you're watching dramas out there. It makes you laugh, it makes you cry, it stresses you out, but really at the end of the day, you could be any of these characters. And that's why for me, watching The Bear, I was just blown away, not only from the technical standpoint, from the acting, but also just like the wonderful storytelling. I mean, you get an 8-minute monologue in the series finale. I mean, come on.
Yeah, it's a lot of memorizing.
I was like, I'm going to practice this monologue. I'm going to learn it. And then I looked at it and I was like, there's no way I'm going to ever do this monologue. So that's a
I'm more of a riff guy. So let's go to Roxy Striar here for your best drama. Andrew setting the bar pretty high with The Bear.
I'm going to try to keep it under 8 minutes, although I'm still trying to impress Andrew with this monologue. I think that it is so abundantly clear that the number one best drama of the year is Severance. The reason for that is because it hit us like a ton of bricks out of nowhere. I think that nobody was expecting Ben Stiller to be able to create something that like hit us all in a way that just you couldn't conceptualize what was going on. Even you're watching something that you can't even explain, but you are glued to the screen. I think that the acting, the performances are the best of the year, but it's really about the story. This is what sells it. Us trying to question our own selves. If I could have an innie and an outie, if I could separate my work from my life, would I do that? And what would that look like? And I know for a fact, if you are watching this, there is a chance that you would separate that. And now we're watching what that would actually look like. And it's causing us to actually question our own realities, and best television does that.
Yeah, it's interesting. You guys both pick shows, first of all, that are super fresh on the tomato meter. The Bear, in fact, is 100%, Severance 97%. So they're both just crushing it with critics and audiences alike. And you also chose shows that, it's best drama, really focusing here on grief and how one copes with grief, how you get through it, various tactics to do that. Maybe you take over a restaurant and you reinvent the menu, or you just get a couple chords up there in your brain chopped. So let's go back to Andrew Ghai for your rebuttal. This round is 30 seconds or less.
Well, you see, The Bear has 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, and Severance only has a 90. So I think one of the things that Roxy touched on, and don't get me wrong, I absolutely loved Severance. Ellis, you're the person that sold me on this show. I think the reason for me it didn't actually go to the best drama for me personally was because I did feel like it is so high concept. It is so hard to actually relate to these people and what they're going through. And while I do agree that the acting is phenomenal, the storytelling is absolutely incredible, when I look at like a nitty gritty, cut and dry, just like a drama, because I do believe that Severance is a sci-fi thriller and it is drama. I completely agree that it is available to be in this category, but I do think that there's so much going on that it almost distracts from just the heart of interpersonal relationships. And again, just being in the muck of life, even though I do understand that Severance deals a lot with the everyday muck of life.
It really is one big muck, isn't it? We're all just trying to get through it. And, you think about something like The Bear and how easily relatable it is. Roxy, Andrew makes an interesting point that Severance, maybe we can't relate to that technology because it's not readily available, but we still feel like we know these people a little bit, right?
We can't relate yet, Mark. We don't know what the world looks like tomorrow. I'm like Drew. I worked at a restaurant for 7 years. I loved The Bear. It has my heart. You know whose heart it probably doesn't have? People who don't know what it's like to sip out of a Tupperware full of water. I think that this is such an incredible show if you can relate to it, but otherwise, parts of it are very lackluster. I'm actually more excited for season 2 of The Bear, knowing the premise going in, than I was for season 1, because I want to see what he's able to make of himself in season 2. And season 1, there was a lot of sitting around, a lot of waiting. I also think that star power is on our side with Severance. I cannot believe we had this show that's just like kind of a random Apple TV show with Christopher Walken, with John Turturro. I mean, the fact that we are watching like these massive stars just pop in and out of TV shows in 2022, it is so cool. And while it is high concept, it stuck the landing in a way that everybody understood. And when you're able to do that at the end of a show, I think that it just makes the entire thing worthwhile.
It was certainly worthwhile, although it didn't make me quite as hungry as the bear did. I've been scouring SoCal for the best Italian beef sandwich. Andrew, you and I can debate that off camera right now. It is your final statement, sir.
My final statement is going to be this. The bear does not have that star power. It does. I mean, Jeremy Allen White is a guy that a lot of people are like, who is he again? I recognize him from that other show, right? But that other show was really more about William H. Macy. I think why this show is the best drama of the year is because it relies solely on the writing, the way that it's shot, and the acting. No big names, no Ben Stiller, no Apple. I mean, it's also on Hulu, right? Hulu, I feel like if you are like Roxy and I, you recognize that Hulu puts out a lot of great television content, but I still feel like it's kind of lower on the totem pole than something like Apple TV Plus. I think that this is a Cinderella story that screamed to the top. It's got 100% on Rotten Tomatoes, as you said, Mark, and I think it's for a reason. Now, while I understand it might not be relatable for people that didn't work in restaurants, being with someone, my partner who's never worked in a restaurant, I think she got it finally. And that's something that you always hear that. Everyone needs to work in a restaurant once in their life. The Bear is kind of at least like a crash course for people that will never do it.
Yeah, and I would count myself amongst those ranks because even though I've never worked at a restaurant, I've been in some pressure situations in close quarters like the bear portrays in the kitchen. And so it's like, oh yeah, I kind of know what that feels like. Roxy, you get to close out round number 1 in support of the Dan Erickson created, Ben Stiller directed Severance.
Treat your servers well, everybody. The thing about Severance is that I don't just think that it is the best show of this year. I think it's the best first season of any show we've had this decade. It does such an unbelievable job of convincing you to care about these people that we're only spending half an amount of time with. We don't know if their outies are actually good people, and we just have to trust that we want these people to win based on their innies. The Bear is great, and I think it's going to get better as it goes. I don't know that any season of Severance could possibly top what they gave to us in season 1.
It was certainly a tough act to follow, really, for both shows. And so it's an interesting point because we asked for best drama, and Severance does, delve into some sci-fi, some Twilight Zone-y horror sort of vibes. But if you were just to find these two shows at Blockbuster Video back in the day, I think we'd both be wandering towards the drama section. I love how they both deal with some of the same issues in very different ways and with very different contexts. Great acting, great writing across the board. Andrew, I have good news for you. Your show won the tomato meter battle, but I feel like Severance, here's the thing. I feel like Severance just left us where we need to get to season 2, like right now, where the Bear, I was thrilled to watch it, but after it ended, I was like, good, this is over. I can run out and grab an Italian beef sandwich myself. Then I can come back and get ready for season 2. So by the slimmest of margins, y'all picked my 2 favorite shows of the year, just so you know.
Ooh.
I'm going with Severance, and the point goes to Roxy Striar in round number 1. But Andrew's going to have to dust himself off and get right back in the ball game here because we're on to round 2, where our topic is the best comedy. What was the best comedy of 2022? Roxy Striar gets to kick us off with a 1-0 lead.
I don't think enough people are acknowledging that we have our current day Parks and Rec, our current day The Office. We have Abbott Elementary. This show is laugh out loud funny, start to finish. Every single episode doesn't miss. Season 2 is just as good, if not better, than season 1. I cannot wait to watch this when it airs. If I have 15 things on my DVR, do people have DVRs anymore? Whatever, you know what I mean. On my queue, this is the first thing that I'm watching because I need it. I feel like this show came at a time in which we as a society are in trouble and it is sad out there. And this show is like, you know what's happening out there? We don't care. This is a small show that takes place in a school, and we are going to just show you how funny it can be when you go to a situational comedy setting and it's a workplace comedy, but it's a school in Philadelphia, East Coast vibes. So good. So good.
Andrew, before I get your answer here, it's interesting that Roxy picks Abbott Elementary. That's a network show, yet we still feel like network shows now are the little show that could versus some of the streaming giants that put out quality content. So now Andrew Ghai has his opening statement for what show?
Well, I do love Abbott Elementary, but I'm actually going to have to go with Abbott Elementary. This is the best show that's on TV comedy-wise, period. It's Parks and Rec of our generation. No, okay, I'm not going to repeat everything that Roxy said, but I will go and hop on the bandwagon of The Office, right? Like, we never thought we could ever replicate The Office. And I think when The Office came, it was kind of like us leaving the 90s and 2000s, and now, like, that office workplace comedy was the thing then. But now, like, we're getting into paying attention to real culture and what's going on in the world. And this being in a school and being a hilarious comedy, Roxy's 100% correct. It never misses, but it's also so poignant. It is so on top of these socio-political issues that teachers deal with every single day. I mean, my partner is getting her PhD in education policy. She used to be a teacher. She used to be a teacher at a lower income school. You know, this is exactly hitting all those nails on the head, not only being hilarious, but also being incredibly heartwarming and bringing attention to things that need to be paid attention to in the world. Like, we've been talking about how teachers are underpaid since all of us were in school, in elementary school, and it's only gotten worse over that time period. I won't say how many years it's been. I believe Abbott Elementary is the best thing on television right now, comedy wise, because it's like This Is Us, except for you only cry a little bit and you laugh a lot. It's like it switches it.
Yeah, you can turn up the tear duct factory that This Is Us gave us all. And Abbott Elementary, y'all both picked the same show, different styles of arguing, but it's a 99% tomato meter winner right now. So you both have a lot of momentum. We're going back to Roxy Striar here for your rebuttal against Andrew's pick, Abbott Elementary.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about Abbott Elementary, but I really feel like it must be Abbott Elementary. I haven't said that a network show is the funniest show on TV in 15 years. I mean, it's crazy how captivating this show is. It won 3 Emmys this year. It deserved all 3 of them, if not more. One of the cool things about this show, too, is that I don't know who my favorite character is. With comedies, I latch onto somebody really quick, but because I love all of them so much, I go back and forth per episode. They do a really great job of focusing on somebody else and letting somebody else shine week to week. And it also has maybe the greatest will they won't they relationship since Ross and Rachel. Janine and Greg, like, are they going to, are they not going to? We know they are, but when? I'm a lover of love, a shipper of ships. So just having that to anchor me too, I'm like, thank you, Abbott Elementary.
I think I was a little more Ross and Rachel than Jim and Pam, so I'll give you that. You're still in the ball game here. Let's go to Andrew Ghai. Where do you stand on Ross and Rachel? No, or are you just talking about Abbott Elementary?
I mean, I'm going to just go to the characters because these are all people that I didn't really know who any of them were before watching this show. And I've fallen so in love with every single person. I completely agree with what Rox is saying about your favorite, except for I don't think my favorite is ever Quinta Brunson, even though I think she's perfect in the show. I think she does an incredible job writing it, but she's kind of like that. She's kind of like Ross. You're always like, what are you doing? Stop being so annoying. But you kind of empathize with her. I absolutely love her. But when you look at Barbara, when you look at Sheryl Lee Ralph, you know, obviously winning that Emmy, she has done something that I think so many actors want to do, which is take that stage presence, that thing that she has, that big chewing up words, and bringing it to the small screen and going and looking at her and be like, oh my God, that is a thespian. Every single episode I watch with her, the way she takes her time, her presence when she has in her scenes, just the look on her face, I am so blown away by her every single episode. But like Rox said, Tyler James Williams is amazing. Ava Coleman is incredible. Janelle Jones, or James, excuse me, like every single character on this show is wonderful. And I think that is something that is so hard to do.
And it's that insight that we always were wondering what is going on in that teacher's lounge when we were kids. And now we get to see it in all of its glory. Roxy Striar, you have the first final statement, stumping for Abbott Elementary.
One of the reasons this show is not being as widely loved and talked about is because the marketing funds, and I've spoken about this actually here on this show before, were given to teachers. Instead of actually marketing this show to underfunded teachers, that's where a lot of the marketing budget went for the show, which just makes you love it even more, that the show is practicing what it preaches. And there's actual heart and soul to this show. You're actually watching people try their best at their job. It's not one of those comedies where everybody sucks at what they do. Okay, the principal's awful at what she does, but the teachers, they're out there every day trying. And I think that that's really beautiful then, that they're also trying to support real world teachers.
It feels authentic to the struggles that a lot of teachers in our country face. Let's go to Andrew Ghai. We're talking best comedies. You both have Abbott Elementary. Why is this the best show for you?
It's because it is the little engine that could, not only in terms of it being a show that became one of the biggest shows in the world, winning all these awards, but because I also think it's a story for creative artists in and of themselves. Like, again, you talk about Barbara Cheryl Lee Ralph. She's been acting for like 50 years. And now I'm finally hearing who she is. Quinta Brunson started on the internet, right? With making these little blurbs on her Instagram, making these little comedy videos. And now she's winning Emmys on the biggest show in America. Like, this is not only inspiring from watching it and what they're doing for teachers out there in the world, you know, these people, but also just from like a creative standpoint, as people, all three of us living in LA, trying to do what we want to do, that, you know, following our dreams. I think that's the other great thing about this show, is that these people that are making this, they really have kind of been around either forever or like built this incredible name for themselves. It makes you believe that you can as well. And you get all that out of a comedy on network television. I'm down, man.
Ooh,
well, speak for yourself. I already followed my dream and I'm about ready to retire. So this might be it for me. And one of the last judgments I get to make is who gets the point for the best comedy. Andrew, you guys both kind of got on that train where it's just this little underdog show that ended up going to the Emmys and winning and getting nominated for all these awards. I like your sort of story of where everybody started and where they are now, thanks to shows like Abbott Elementary. And so, again, they're two great competitors. They picked one great show by the slimmest of margins. Andrew Ghai gets the point in round number 2. And that means that we are heading to round number 3, tied 1-1 with, we talk about the underdog shows that we love. What is the most underrated show? That is the topic in round number 3. And Andrew Ghai, you have even the score. What is your most underrated show of 2022?
I hope you were happy when you saw this, everyone. I'm sure Roxy was. So my most underrated show, period, is Love is Blind. Now, you might be asking yourself, what the hell is this guy talking about? This is a stupid reality dating show, but that's exactly the point. Anyone that watches Love is Blind loves Love is Blind. You either love to hate it, or you hate that you love it, or you actually love watching the way that people date, these interpersonal relationships, watching people actually get to know each other without seeing each other. It is a fascinating social experiment. But the reason I say it's the most underrated show is because, look, if I talk to someone about The Bear or Severance or Succession, I go, hey, have you seen this? Like, no, I need to, though. If you talk to anyone about Love is Blind and they have, you're like, hey, have you seen Love is Blind? They're like, no, you can't. I'm never going to watch. What is wrong with you? That show is horrible. I don't watch trash like that. It's because it's underrated. The show is phenomenal. It's one of the best things I've ever seen. It is the universal language. Literally, I can go anywhere and talk about television. If I bring up Love is Blind, everyone in the room gets excited, except for the one guy that refuses to watch it. And that's his fault.
And that would probably be me, but you have an interesting angle here with your reality show that will use reality in quotes, but it is that high concept sort of reality where it might be the reality version of something like Severance, where it's this interesting concept that might just be enough to hook even the viewer who may not think it's for them. So let's go over to Roxy Striar now. What is your most underrated show of this past year?
I'm going to get to Love is Blind in a minute because that show is truly gold. But I don't know about underrated gold. I think it's very valued. Here's a show that people don't talk about anymore. It had a little buzz season 1, and then it really fell off of people's radar for no reason, and that's Rami. Rami is unbelievable. It's one of the funniest, most poignant shows on TV. I don't know why it isn't getting the love it deserves. It's really, truly more of a message about who our society is and how they don't know how to pick their television. And that's why you guys need people like us to tell you what's good, because when you're out here not watching shows like Rami, you are doing yourself a disservice. It's about a Muslim man, and I think that a lot of people are like, oh, maybe I won't be able to relate to this. But it is so relatable. This is coming from a Jew, and he makes so much commentary about real life things, and he makes it funny in a way that makes me know that Mark Ellis has always been right about comedians being able to make anything funny if they do it in the right way. We had an entire episode this season that had a Holocaust joke through line. And again, I can say this because I'm Jewish. It was the funniest episode of TV of the year. And I was like, how'd you do that? How did you do that? You brilliant, brilliant man. Rami is out of this world good. And it is a shame you're not watching it.
Yeah, Rami Youssef, a very talented comedian in addition to creating this show. And yeah, I mean, I think there was Emmys involved, and there's awards, and then maybe not necessarily the buzz that we thought we would have for this latest season, but it lived up to the expectations the fans of the show had, and that's a pretty high bar. So let's go back to you, Andrew Ghai. Tell me more about why folks like me need to see Love is Blind.
Well, okay. So first of all, I bet they've heard of it, which I think is good, right? Because Rami, they may not have heard of. That's one of those like niche shows that I feel like people like us in this city that watch a lot of TV are people that know about it. But I do think if you talk to anyone about it, they'll say it's a great show, right? It's not underrated. Whereas Love is Blind is constantly, there's blasphemous statements all over the internet. Twitter is always, there's listicles, there's BuzzFeed articles. Everyone's talking trash about Love is Blind and the people that are on it. But look, at the end of the day, when you watch TV, you want to feel good about yourself, right? You want to feel better about yourself. And what's a great way to do that? Judge other people on television that are doing reality dating. So, you know what? The other side of it is maybe you need a little pick me up. Maybe you've just had a rough day. Go watch some Love is Blind. You'll feel really smart and you feel like you're just a better person than a lot of them on there, even though you might not be. You get to judge. And that's what reality television is all about.
All right. We do love judging with our reality TV show, and we do love sort of getting on board with these programs that maybe not everybody's seen, and we get to be the friend that recommends it to everyone else. Roxy, I have a feeling you were that friend for a lot of people with Rami.
Oh, I absolutely was, but people don't listen to me. People do listen about Love is Blind to the extent that it's #1 on the top 10 in Netflix every single time it comes out. We see it when we're scrolling through. Everybody knows that it exists. 30 million people watched the first season. And the thing about this show is, I can't say one bad thing about the show, but season 1, exceptional, because we found true love. One of the greatest couples to ever come out of TV in Lauren and Cam. I follow them. I actually live by them. They are so cute together. And we're never going to get that again. Because so many people found that this show was so big, they want to get famous. Like that guy, Andrew, from the show, putting Visine in his eyes. You guys saw that meme so that he could pretend he was crying. We're not getting that quality of person that we got in season 1 anymore. And while the show is still really good, I think it's downhill from here because there are people that are coming on this that want the fame because they know how big the show is. Rami? Barely anybody talking about it. We had one of the Hadid sisters on it this year. Where is that? Nobody knows that even the 2 of the most famous people are appearing on the show and still nobody's talking about it. What's it going to take for us to get people talking about Rami? All you have to do is actually watch it and then you'll know how great it is. But for some reason, I can't convince anybody.
All right, Andrew. Roxy's having a tough time convincing people to watch her show. I'm curious, as your experience with Love is Blind, when you talk to folks who haven't seen it yet, if they're on board with it, because everybody hears the concept and they're like, oh, that's pretty interesting. But in your final statement, you can either expound on that. You can say why it's better than Rami. You have the floor, sir.
Okay. So what I will say is, did you hear how passionate Roxy was talking about Love is Blind? That's what this show can do for you. It can do this for you, Mark. It can do this for you guys watching at home. Okay. Yes. Season 1, 30 million people. But since season 1, because of what Roxy's talking about, I think less and less people are akin to watching or checking out Love is Blind. However, I do still believe that even though a lot of people are going on that show to get famous, they still get weeded out. And there's still people that are trying to fall in love with one another. Not everyone on the show is compatible. And I'm sure a lot of them are staying around because they do want to try to get that fame, but you still get to watch people try to date. And I've been in a relationship for a long time. Okay. I miss watching dating. I want to be a fly on the wall when I hear about my friends going on first dates. I get to do that with this show. I get to go out there and vicariously live through these people that are not just sitting with Snickers watching movies every single night. Love is Blind is underrated because season 3 is getting better and better. It's not running out, Rox. It's only going up from here.
All right. Andrew thinks that the future is bright for Love is Blind. Roxy, you have the final statement and the final word in round 3.
To use Andrew's words against him, people aren't watching Hulu the way that we were wishing they were. And Rami is on Hulu and Love is Blind is on Netflix, and Netflix is the behemoth that it is. And it recommends to you exactly what you need to watch. And right there at #1 is Love is Blind. If you want to find Rami on Hulu, you have to go into the search bar and type in Rami. Otherwise, that thing is never popping up, not for anyone, not for never.
Oh, man. All right. Two great, compelling arguments. Round 3 is where our competitors found their footing and started throwing some haymakers, because Andrew made a great point that, you hear how passionate Roxy is talking about Love is Blind while she's defending Rami. But then you also have that closing statement, Rox, where it's like, yeah, Love is Blind is on Netflix. You have 30 million people watching it, and it may be a little easier to find. Is it properly rated? I can't necessarily speak to Love is Blind as much as I can Rami, because I'm more of a fan of Rami, but I will say that Love is Blind feels properly rated for people who watch it, because they know that it may not be the highest bar to pass as far as a show's intelligence quotient, but it's very fun.
You are feeding into my point. This is incredibly blasphemous and underrated outlook on my show. I'll take the point. Thank you.
I feel like Rami might be a little more underrated than Love is Blind. So Rami gets the point. But Andrew, you did convince me. I will check out Love is Blind. But do we feel like season 3, which doesn't have a tomato meter score yet? And I will say season 2, I think, is 86%. Season 1 is 66%. So the show's trending in the right direction. But maybe is it too many people just trying to be famous as opposed to looking for love?
No, you're gonna love it.
Yeah, you're gonna love it.
You're gonna love it.
There's no more to it.
So let's move on to round number 4. Roxy Striar's in pole position, 2-1, and we go to the best moment of the year as far as television goes in 2022. Roxy Striar, you have a 1-point lead. You could take the match with this round.
I had to go with the best show of the year, which is Severance. And the best moment of that show is us learning that Mark's wife is still alive, if you want to call it that. We still don't know exactly what happened. We don't have all of the pieces in play. We end on that cliffhanger of all cliffhangers as he screams out, "She's alive." We don't know if we're going to get to that point, right? Because we're running against the clock. This is his innie speaking. His innie is on the outside, and in an episode where there are so many things happening here, right? Like every single character is dealing with their biggest moments, and we're learning that his neighbor is actually his boss. Bum, bum, bum. And what's going to happen with John Turturro and the love story? Bum, bum, bum. So there's all these mic drop moments, but nothing compares to learning that your wife, who you think you killed in a car accident, is actually working with you and you're innie, and you can't get that knowledge to her. I mean, my head exploded. I'm full of predictions throughout the whole season. I never thought we could do that. I was like, television, man.
Yeah, I'm a dummy when it comes to watching stuff and making predictions and figuring out who done it or what the twist is going to be. So I don't even try anymore. Everything surprises me, which is why it's so fun to be the judge of this round, because I get surprised just waking up in the morning. Andrew Ghai, what was your most surprising or best moment of the year?
So Roxy picks a really great moment. There's so many in there, and obviously I'll get to it when I get to my rebuttal. But with my show, it's a show that's been on for a very, very long time. And honestly, I really feel like it's getting towards the end of its run. It's starting to get a little redundant, a little repetitive. It's Handmaid's Tale. And I really, really like this show. I mean, obviously, it's 5 seasons in it. I'm still watching it. But what I will say is after all that time, and like I said, it feels a little redundant. It feels like they're recycling a lot of the same beats and moments. They finally kill one of the Waterfords. And it's not Serena, it's Fred. And the way that it happens, I remember sitting and watching, and I was just like I was looking around the room. I was looking at my girlfriend. I was looking at my dog. I don't know what the reaction I was expecting to get was, but I was jaw dropped. It was so brutal and intense, and it felt good. It got that evil in you out when you watched it. He got ripped apart, literally ripped apart by all these handmaids that he had abused for years and years and years and ruined their lives to bring them to this place. And he finally gets his comeuppance. No one's there to save him. He's alone in the woods. He's running. He's terrified. And then, like I said, he literally gets ripped piece to piece by this group of handmaids. It is the coolest, most vindicating, greatest moment that I think that show could ever have. I don't think they can ever top that moment. And I didn't think we'd ever get something that good 5 seasons later.
Yeah, I mean, so we're basically going after finding out somebody's actually alive versus watching somebody brutally lose their life. So we're back to you, Roxy Striar, talking more about one of all of our favorite shows of the year, Severance.
I think that show is brilliant. I still think it's brilliant. And for years, they have been torturing us. I mean, truly torturing us. Fred is one of the worst people we've ever seen on television. Watching myself scream at the television, get him, was probably my least favorite thing I've ever done. That moment made me feel awful inside because I realized I had turned into a true monster based on another monster. And I think that the great things that we had been watching was the dynamic between them and us wondering, how's he going to finally get it? And the payoff is wonderful and gross and horrible. But now we still have a whole show and it's just without him. And they killed the biggest villain character on the show. And so I think that they pulled their punch a little too quick. I think that they needed to wait. We've got one more season and I know we're focusing on Serena, who's great too, but we couldn't just save that a little longer so I didn't have to feel like dirt about myself for an entire season for rooting for that. As opposed to the best moment on Severance that I think we can all get behind. We all want these innies to find out what happened with their outies. We all wanted him to know that's your wife, my dude. The therapist in there, that's your wife. Come on. And it opens a lot of doors instead of closing doors.
So we maybe could see this murder of Fred in the Handmaid's Tales coming more so than we saw the twists and turns of Severance. But Andrew, we're just talking about the best moment of the year. It could be something that surprised you, or it just could be something that you were anticipating and finally paid off.
Yeah, and that's exactly what it was for me. It was this moment that I never thought we were going to get it. Like Rock said, they were dangling it in front of us for so long. It's never going to happen. And now maybe they did pull their punches a little bit too soon. But I think the other side of that coin is I was getting tired of Fred Waterford. I was getting tired of that same thing happening over and over. So him actually dying for me was actually kind of a relief because I was like, now we're going to get something a little bit different. It's not just going to be Fred and Serena against Elizabeth Holmes like forever. We've got that for already half a decade. So I love that it actually opened things up to just be a little bit different. Now, talking about Severance, if we talk like maybe the best episode of the year, like I think she wins this conversation, but I think in her initial argument, she kind of almost worked against herself because this show has so many incredible moments, right? Like Severance is jam-packed with so many great things, whether it's the love story between Walken and Turturro or the wife, or the fact that Helly is actually evil. Like all of these things are so incredible. I couldn't pick a moment between all of them. Whereas with Handmaid's Tale, it is truly the best moment that we got all year. So with Severance, I'd have to sit there for an hour in a drawing board being like, man, which one of these do I actually like more?
Pretty good range on that Joseph finds. You know, you can go from playing Shakespeare in Love to Fred Waterford and Handmaid's Tale. Roxy Striar, it is final statement time, and you get the opening salvo in round 4.
There are a lot of great moments in Severance, but this is the one. This is the one that had everybody talking. And Mark, I need you to ask yourself here, are you more about death or are you about life? Because Drew paints a picture of the most gruesome death in television history. Horrible, awful, and you might be cheering for it, but it ain't pretty. I'm talking about life. She's alive. What a Frankenstein moment. We are about to bring somebody who we think is dead, something we've all wanted of our loved ones, back to life. And what will that look like? We don't know, but this is the moment that we know something's going to happen, and it's going to be interesting.
All right. Life versus death is the way this was posited to me making my decision. But Andrew Ghai has the final statement here in round 4. Andrew, you're supporting, according to your partner, death.
Mark, ask yourself this. You've gone to the Eagles versus the Commanders or Redskins Super Bowl. They've gone there 7 times, 7 years in a row. Somehow you both end up making it to that championship game, the playoff game, not the Super Bowl. But every year the Eagles beat you. Every single year. This rivalry has been going on for decades and decades. And then finally you get 5-7 years in a row of losing to them in the biggest game of the year. But then guess what? That final season comes and you murdered the Eagles. All of them are dead. The Commanders win the game. They get the ring. They get the champagne. That's what it was for us in Handmaid's Tale. Yes, it was a rivalry that finally ended. The bad guy lost. The good guy won. That's why it's the best moment in television.
What this boils down to for me is, look, seeing Mark's wife still alive was a shock. It might have been the biggest shocking moment, not just of that show, but of the TV season in general. But if you're looking at where we started with Severance, we're still on season 1 of Severance. We got a lot of twists and turns. Handmaid's Tale, I feel like, I mean, we're now in season 5. I think it's 81% that season 5 is. And with that season 4 finale, we've been building to this for a long time. We've been anticipating, when could this happen? Will it ever happen? And so I just think that weird tantric anticipation of it finally happened, and then it paid off, and it even made Roxy's neighbors doubt her sanity. It's something that you really have to take into account. And so I will give the point to Andrew Ghai, even though Mark's wife being alive, I think it gives us a lot of juiciness for season 2. So one show sort of on its way out. I chose death.
Choosing death, just checking.
I chose death, but again, the way Andrew said it, it was death to another team in the NFC East and not mine. So, I had to take the lesser two evils there. So we move on to round number 5. We do have time on the clock. So here's how it's going to work. This is a tiebreaker round. You each have accrued 2 points thus far. And now it all comes down to this. As far as the best TV of 2022, what is the best performance that you saw all season long? Now, here's how we'll play. It can be a show that started in 2021, or maybe a season that started back 2 years ago and then ran through 2022. So we'll be a little loose with the interpretation here. We just want to hear some great performances from y'all, starting with you, Andrew Ghai.
Michael Keaton and Dopesick. And I had so many people out there that I wanted to go to for this performance because, like Roxy said, I do think that TV is better now than it's ever been. There's so many incredible actors and actresses, but Keaton is a guy that I've watched since I was a kid, and it felt like he was never going to come back. In the late 90s, early 2000s, it felt like he was just kind of done. But then he comes back into the world with the other guys, and then he's a superstar again with Birdman. And this show, you can tell it's near and dear to his heart. He lost his nephew to a fentanyl heroin addiction. And this is something that when you can see it on the screen, it is visceral. This is a thing that's happening all the time. And the fact that Keaton is able to ground this, he plays kind of like the hapless doctor that's just trying to help out his patients, and he gets them all addicted. And then he starts to take the blame for that. And then he gets addicted himself. All of these beats and moments that he has to go to, he executes absolutely brilliantly, perfectly pulled off. It's never reaching. It's never overacting. It is just real and it is raw. And for someone that's been doing it for like my whole life, to see him come out and do a mini series on Hulu that is this good and him maybe give the best performance of his career, I was just blown away.
Yeah, I love how you pointed out that, a lot of us who grew up with Michael Keaton, seeing him in Beetlejuice and Batman and all these wonderful big budget blockbuster movies, then it's like he just doesn't feel like acting anymore. And it's like, oh no, we miss Michael Keaton. Then he just has this stirring comeback. He's nominated for awards again. And then a performance like Dopesick is something we always knew he had in him. And wow, what a fall from grace, a attempt to return. I mean, that thing takes you through the gamut of emotions watching his character in Dopesick. So a high bar set, Roxy Striar, but you have a tendency to hurdle over these. What is your best performance of 2022?
Kelly Riley in Yellowstone as Beth. She is out of this world phenomenal. And I don't understand why the entire show, the entire cast continues to get snubbed by every single award. They're never even nominated, which is crazy because it's one of the most watched shows on TV. And she is by far and away the best part of the show, which is really saying something because she is with some big, heavy hitters on that show. But it is Beth. We've never seen a character like this on television. I don't know how I love her so much because she's bad. Like on paper, bad person. She kidnaps people. She beats the crap out of people. She drinks way too much. She's verbally abusive to her loved ones. She's a loose cannon completely. But somehow this British actress, who is not Oscar nominated, not Emmy nominated, just this random British actress, boy, do the Brits do it right, comes in and embodies somebody so opposite of herself in a way that is just like mind-blowing. And it's all the things. It's one of the best dramas. It is the most underrated. or one of the most underrated shows by the Academy thing. But more importantly, it is the best performance of the year, and it's Kelly Riley's performance.
All right, two great arguments, one that I might have expected and one that I did not. But wow, Yellowstone and Dopesick, again, two highly acclaimed shows. And now we go back to Andrew Ghai, and here's where we stand. We have enough time for each one of you to have one last rebuttal round, and then I got to make a decision. So, Andrew, empty the chamber. The floor is yours.
Right. Here we go. So what I will say is that Kelly has had her chance for half of a decade now to get any sort of recognition from, like Roxy said, one of the most watched shows, and she's not getting it. And I don't know why, because I think she does a great job on that show. My parents think that she's one of the best parts of that show, but she's not better than Michael Keaton in Dopesick. He had one chance, 8 episodes to do it, and he blew everyone away. And we've seen Kelly kind of embody this character before, even if she's the snarkiness from Sherlock Holmes. But when you look at Michael Keaton's filmography, he has not really done this exact thing before. Like Ellis said, he's done Big, he's done Blockbuster, he's done introspective. Birdman was a little weird, but nothing quite as real as this. He won the Emmy for a reason. Kelly had her shot. She's 5 years. 5 years later, she's still not going to have it, Rox. I'm sorry, but Keaton will have it for Dopesick. And I love you, and I'm sorry. Kelly's great.
We all know the awards get political, and I think awards are great. I think they help further careers, all that good stuff. I don't put a lot of stock in what TV shows I need to be watching or the performances just based on winning awards, but it is something to note. Roxy Striar, we go back to you. You have the last word in the match for the win.
Michael Keaton's amazing in that show. He's so great. I really wanted to throw myself off of a building 15 times while watching him. It was like miserable to watch him. It was a truly miserable experience that he did a great job doing. Kelly takes a miserable character and makes me somehow feel good. I've never experienced what I'm feeling when I'm watching her performance, where I'm like, this should be, and literally last night's episode, we are watching her pummel a girl into the ground. And I'm sitting there like, this is so fun. This is a blast to watch, even though it's a drama. I think Dopesick, we have seen time and time again, people embody people who are literally dopesick, and it's horrible. And he did a great job with it, but it has been done. A character like Beth, I haven't seen. We don't give women characters like this ever, but even a man, I've never, even a man, even anybody
Even
on screen, we just don't see this. And you're right. I don't think she is going to get the nod from the Emmys ever. And surprise, surprise, an Oscar nominee gets a nod from the Emmys. We've seen that before, but that has nothing to do with her performance. It's sad that she won't get seen, but she's seen by me. And that's what matters most.
Wow, and very impassioned response from Roxy Striar. And when you look at both these shows, there is some connective tissue here because they both did, both characters, I should say, both struggled with some sort of substance abuse in the process of the show. And, for me, I know Andrew sympathizes with Michael Keaton, not necessarily from the substance abuse, but also his preferred chicken restaurant. He's a big fan of your favorite chicken sandwich of all time. So we'll go there with Michael Keaton. But I feel like when Roxy points out that this is a character that we haven't seen in general on TV. I mean, with Michael Keaton, you'd have to go all the way back to his performance in something like Clean and Sober to really get any sort of the vibe that we got from him in Dopesick. But this was an argument I was not anticipating, I was not expecting, but hearing Roxy support Kelly Riley and the way that has sort of gone through the various arcs of Yellowstone, and her to stand out in a show like that, I think that does speak to the performance. And so it's
Don't do it to me again, Mark. Don't do it.
It's going to be Yellowstone getting the point, and it's going to be Roxy Striar winning the match. And Andrew Ghai, we just have to be happy that we have Michael Keaton back in our lives on a weekly basis with Dopesick for 8 episodes. But
Kelly
Roxy
needed
Striar
that.
gets the win.
Kelly needed
Andrew
that
Ghai,
one. She did.
I think Roxy did need that point. And so we do go to Roxy first for again, if Twitter's still around and all these other wonderful social media places, where can everybody find you out there in the world, Rox?
Yeah, if you want to know how I feel about the 115 shows I watched, I tweet about them all at Roxy Striar. And like Mark said, the World Girls, we're selling this calendar, theworldgirls.com. It's just the best this year. We did these magazine covers. It's awesome. We spent thousands of hours on it. So please go check it out.
I would
Oh
say
my God, your
the
guys' man photo shoot pictures are the greatest thing I've ever seen.
it
Like
was so
absolutely
fun.
laugh out loud, incredible. And I'm still, I was like looking, I was like, huh. And they're still hot. You're still hot, and you're still men.
Go. It was
and
the
yeah,
most
the
fun
men's
thing.
the men's health cover and the Rolling Stone cover were two of my favorites from that
Wonderful.
upcoming World Girls Counter. You can check out right now. Andrew Ghai, I'm not sure if you have a calendar available for next year, but where can everybody find you in case you do?
You guys can find me drinking down the street at my local bar because I've lost another episode of Binge Battle. Another one. I mean, I knew there was no way I could actually beat Roxy in a TV debate, but I feel like I got close. You guys can check me out on Twitter at Andrew Ghai. Way to go, Rox. I loved your choices. I love also that our number one and number two were the exact same, I think, on the first two questions or something like that. I know that I also had The Rehearsal and Abbott Elementary, which would have been a lot of fun to talk about.
Yeah, you had amazing picks. And if it makes you feel any better, I think I'm undefeated here. I think I am undefeated. Mark, we'll have to check the tape, but I don't know. Am I a champion? Some might say.
You might be the 2022 champion of Binge Battle. And, Andrew Ghai, we'd love to have you back next year. You've put in 50 hours of TV viewing, so I feel like you still have some more arguments to levy for this program. But you both have wonderful performances in this film, Always Lola, and it's been just crushing it at festivals nationwide, picking up awards. Sometimes it's the best movie at the festival, and it's really incredible. I saw the movie. You guys are fantastic in it, but it's just great to see. We talk about shows like Abbott Elementary and these little engines that could. Always Lola gaining steam coast to coast here in the States. And just, is there a way for everybody to check it out yet? Did you just follow them on social media, see where it's playing in your town, that sort of thing?
I'll let our award-winning lead actress tell you where to check it out.
Don't say it like you're not award-winning yourself, my babe.
I was hoping you'd say it too.
Yeah, of course. Right now, we have a very good feeling that it will be available for people to see. But in the meantime, if you want to know where to watch it or where it's going, Always Lola Film. That's the best place to check it out on Instagram. They keep you updated. Same thing on the website, which is listed on the Instagram as well. It will tell you if it's coming to a theater near you or how you will be able to watch it. And to the people who already have seen it and are saying kind things, I just think that this is Drew and Mai's best. We text about it. There's nothing better in the world than having a dream and then being able to live even a tiny part of that is so cool. So any support that anybody wants to give us by actually watching it, checking it out means everything to both me and Drew, award-winning Drew.
Y'all did a wonderful
100%.
job. You're both award winners in my book. It was a banner year for television and a banner year for Roxy Striar and Andrew Ghai. So thank you all for joining us here on Binge Battle. Our wonderful producer, Christian Rubalcaba, his wonder dog, Draco, and everybody here at Rotten Tomatoes. It's one big happy family. And once again, for all the latest in the world of TV, streaming, movies, everything in between, just head over to RottenTomatoes.com. I'm Mark Ellis, and we'll see you next time right here on Binge Battle.
Yeah.